shine, where ideas meet purpose. Today's message was crafted with AI tools, but
Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes when we encounter those who wound us with their words or drain us with their presence, we think of them as interruptions to our path, jagged stones on an otherwise smooth road. But what if they are not interruptions at all? What if they are notes in the very symphony of our becoming? In the quiet friction between you and them, something invisible is tuning itself, a resilience, a grace, a deeper knowing of who you are. Life does not waste even a single encounter. Even the sharpest edges are part of the sculpture being carved. Every silence you've endured, every battle you've fought in the shadows, they are movements in a larger, divine choreography you cannot yet see. Perhaps the toxic are not meant to defeat you, but to reveal you. And so we begin, not to conquer them, but to awaken to the beauty of how even their darkness teaches you to shine. When we find ourselves face with someone toxic, our instinct is often to fight them, to fix them, or to flee from them entirely. We make it personal. We say, they're cruel, they're selfish, they're wrong. Why are they doing this to me? And it makes sense. It feels personal because it hurts. But what if we've misunderstood what's really happening? You see, toxic people are not villains with a master plan to ruin you. They're not sitting in the shadows plotting how to unravel your peace. In most cases, they don't even see you clearly. What they see is their own pain reflected back to them, their own chaos spilling over. Their behavior isn't about you, their game isn't about you, and the sooner we realize this, the sooner we see the game, not the player, the sooner we can step out of it, because when we focus all our energy on the player, we get trapped in their story. We make their anger our fault, their manipulation our burden, their bitterness our responsibility. But the truth is, they've been playing this game long before you showed up, and they'll keep playing it long after you walk away. It's like walking onto a chessboard mid-match. You didn't set the pieces, you didn't make the rules, but if you don't pay attention, you'll still find yourself in checkmate. So what do? We start by seeing the pattern. Every toxic interaction follows a script, sometimes subtle, sometimes loud, but always predictable if you're willing to look beyond the emotions. There's a push and a pull, an accusation, a withdrawal, a trap disguised as kindness, then another jab to keep you off balance. This is the game, and once you recognize the game, it loses its power. It's like when you finally notice the magician's hands, you stop being amazed by the trick. So rather than getting caught up in who they are or why they're like this, you begin to see what's actually happening. You notice how they provoke, how they deflect, how they bait you, and you stop playing along. You stop giving them the reaction they're trying to extract from you. This is not about being smarter than them. It's about being clearer than them. You can't beat someone at their own game by playing with the same rules. You beat them by refusing to play at all, by stepping off the board and choosing a higher ground. And here's what's fascinating. When you stop reacting to the player and start observing the game, something inside you shifts. You begin to feel less angry and more curious, less defensive and more calm, because you start to understand this is just one part of a much larger dance. The universe doesn't waste anything. Even them, is teaching you something. Patience, maybe, or boundaries. Or the strength to say no without guilt. It's not about defeating them. It's about discovering yourself. And the irony is, when you stop trying to win the game you've already won, you've stopped letting their chaos define you. You've stopped letting their pain dictate your peace. You've started living your life on your terms, not theirs. And that is the quietest kind of victory. So the next time you find yourself standing before someone who feels impossible, someone whose presence feels like a storm, take a breath, look closer. You're not up against a person, you're standing in the middle of a pattern. And patterns can be seen, and once seen, they can no longer control you. You don't have to play every game you're invited to, and when you choose not to, you create the kind of silence that speaks louder than any argument. That silence, that clarity, is the most powerful move you'll ever make. There's something almost irresistible about reacting when someone pushes your buttons, when someone lashes out at you. You want to fire back. When someone disrespects you, you want to prove them wrong. It feels like action, it feels like strength, but here's the paradox. The more you react, the more you give them exactly what they want, because toxic people thrive on reaction. Your anger feeds their narrative. Your frustration confirms their power. Every word, every sigh, every rolling of your eyes is another piece of evidence that they can reach into your life and move you like a pawn. But there's another way to respond: stillness. Not silence that comes from fear, but stillness that comes from mastery, a choice to remain centered even when the storm is raging around you. Stillness is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. It takes enormous strength to stand your ground without being swept into their chaos, to let their words pass through you without sticking, to feel the weight of their negativity and not pick it up. We're taught to believe that we have to meet force with force. If they yell, we yell louder. If they manipulate, we outsmart them, but that only keeps you spinning inside their game. Stillness, on the other hand, removes you from the board entirely. Because here's the thing, toxic people aren't just testing your patience. They're testing your center. They want to know if you know who you are without their approval or their attacks. And the moment you lose yourself to their chaos, they've already won. When you choose stillness, you're not ignoring them. You're choosing not to mirror them. You're saying, my peace is not for sale today. My identity is not up for negotiation. And I get it. It feels unnatural at first. You feel the heat rise in your chest, the words form in your mouth. But if you can just pause, even for a few seconds, something magical happens. You create space, and in that space, clarity rushes in. You can see the pattern more clearly. You can see yourself more clearly. You can make choices that reflect who you truly are, rather than who they're trying to make you become. It's like standing in the middle of an orchestra, horns blaring, drums pounding, and somehow you find the quiet note beneath it all. You start to hear the music instead of just the noise, because that's what life is. A symphony, and yes, some notes are dissonant. Some people are here to teach you through their discord, but you don't have to play every note they throw at you. You don't have to let their music drown out yours. Stillness isn't just about stopping yourself from reacting. It's about anchoring yourself so deeply in who you are that nothing they say or do can pull you out of alignment. You become like a tree in the wind. The branches may sway, but the roots remain unshaken. And when you meet their storm with calm, you change the energy of the whole encounter. You're no longer playing the role they assigned you. You're showing them and yourself what true strength looks like. It's not about being passive. It's about being deliberate, choosing when and how to act rather than being dragged around by someone else's dysfunction. And you'll notice something remarkable when you practice this. Toxic people don't quite know what to do with stillness. They rely on reaction. When you don't give them one, the game starts to fall apart, because the truth is their power was never real. It was borrowed from your attention, your energy, your willingness to engage. When you withhold those things, you reveal just how small their game really is. And here's the most beautiful part. When you learn to master your stillness with them, you also begin to master it with yourself. You start hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You start trusting your own instincts again. You start noticing that the noise wasn't just around you, it was inside you too, and in quieting it, you rediscover the music of your own life. The world will keep sending you storms. Some people will keep trying to shake you. But every time you choose stillness over reaction, you send a quiet signal back to the universe. I know who I am. I know where I stand. And no one gets to move me without my permission. So the next time they come at you, loud, angry, desperate to pull you into their chaos, just smile, breathe, remember who you are, and let the stillness speak for you. When you find yourself face to face with someone toxic, someone who seems intent on cutting you down, twisting your words, testing your patience, it's natural to ask the question, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why do they treat me this way? Why does it feel like I'm the one who always ends up in these situations? But what if that question is too small? What if the better question isn't why me, but what is this shaping in me? See, when we think of resistance, we think of something bad, something we need to get rid of. But resistance is not just an obstacle, it's a teacher. It's how nature builds strength. Trees grow deep roots not because the wind is kind, but because it's relentless. Your muscles don't grow when everything is easy. They grow when you push against the weight, and people are no different. That toxic person, that difficult conversation, that tension you feel when you're around them, it's all a kind of spiritual weightlifting. It's the resistance you're pushing against that makes you stronger. It doesn't mean the pain they cause is okay. It doesn't mean you deserve to be treated poorly, but it does mean the encounter isn't meaningless. It means you are being refined. Every moment you stand your ground without losing your temper, you grow a little stronger. Every time you set a boundary without guilt, you get a little clearer. Every time you walk away from their game without letting it steal your peace, you become a little more yourself. We tend to think that personal growth comes from books or courses or meditation, and sometimes it does. But the truth is, most of your growth comes from the friction of real life, from the hard conversations, from the moments when you want to react but you choose to respond differently. It's uncomfortable, yes. But so is anything worth becoming. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Clay is shaped by hands that press and pull. And you are no different. Toxic people have a way of pressing on all the places in you that still need healing. They find your unspoken fears, your hidden insecurities, the lines you've never clearly drawn, and they push. And in that pushing, they reveal the places where your work still lies. When they test your patience, they're showing you where your patience ends. When they make you doubt your worth, they're revealing where you haven't yet claimed it for yourself. When they provoke your anger, they're pointing to the places you still need peace. And isn't that remarkable? That even in their dysfunction, they are unwittingly helping you see who you really are and who you're becoming. It doesn't mean you have to thank them. It doesn't mean you have to keep them close. It just means you can stop seeing them as a curse and start seeing them as a kind of mirror. Because here's what happens when you reframe resistance this way. You stop fighting it. You stop asking, why me? And you start asking, what now? What lesson is here for me to learn? What part of myself is this teaching me to strengthen? And little by little, you realize you're no longer just surviving these moments, you're using them. You're using their resistance as fuel, and eventually you find yourself standing in front of someone who once could throw you completely off balance, and you notice something has changed. You're calm. You're clear. You're not playing their game anymore, not because they stopped being who they are, but because you started being who you are. That's what refinement looks like. It doesn't happen in a day or even a season. It happens in the quiet, ordinary moments when you choose to keep showing up as your best self, even when it would be easier not to. It's easy to be kind when everyone around you is kind. It's easy to stay calm when no one is pushing your buttons. But life doesn't refine you in the easy moments. It refines you right here in the middle of the tension, in the presence of the people who seem to take more than they give. And the more you embrace this idea, the more you begin to see that nothing is wasted. Not even them, not even this. Every friction is forming you. Every resistance is shaping you. Every encounter, even the ones that hurt, is helping you become who you were meant to be. So when they show up again, and they will, don't just see their dysfunction. See the gift buried inside the challenge, because one day you'll realize that the very people who tried to break you were the ones who helped you build your strength. And you'll stand there, unshaken, and you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because you finally understand that even the resistance was part of the design. ChatGPT said, "One of the biggest mistakes we make when dealing with toxic people is believing it's our job to carry their weight. We absorb their moods, we internalize their anger, we make their mess our responsibility. It happens so easily. Someone lashes out, and we assume we must have done something wrong. Someone manipulates us, and we question our own judgment. Someone projects their pain, and we start feeling guilty for simply standing there. It's human nature. We want to fix things, we want to keep the peace, we want to make it better, so we become sponges. We soak up their negativity in the hope that it will protect them, or protect others, or at least stop the noise. But here's the truth. You are not a sponge. You're not here to absorb their chaos. You're here to reflect their behavior back to them with clarity. One of the most profound realizations we come to, often after we've endured enough storms and noise, is that we get to decide how much of ourselves we bring into someone else's chaos. We forget this, though, don't we? especially when the person in front of us is loud, insistent, and convinced that we owe them something, our energy, our explanation, our attention. Toxic people have a way of convincing you that your time belongs to them, that you must stand there and play the game simply because they've invited you onto the board, but you don't. You get to decide where you stand, how long you stay, and when it's time to walk away. And this isn't about cutting people off out of spite, or about building walls so high no one can reach you. It's not even about punishment or revenge. It's about choosing your peace over their chaos. Because here's the thing, not every battle is worth fighting. Not every conversation needs your participation. Not every wound they try to open deserves your attention. And the more you realize this, the more powerful you become. When you let go of the need to prove yourself to someone who refuses to see you clearly, you reclaim your dignity. When you stop explaining yourself to someone who only wants to misunderstand you, you reclaim your voice. When you choose to walk away instead of standing there being pulled into their dysfunction, you reclaim your energy. We have this idea that walking away is weakness, as if staying in a toxic situation proves how strong we are. But walking away when you know your soul is being diminished, that's courage, that's clarity. You don't have to stay in every room you're invited to. You don't have to keep answering calls from people who only want to drain you. You don't have to keep holding space for someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own behavior. That's not cruel, that's wisdom. You see, toxic people often mistake access for power. As long as they can reach you, as long as they can poke you, text you, show up in your life uninvited, they feel they still have some hold over you. But the moment you take that access away, the game changes. They might call you cold. They might accuse you of being selfish. They might even try to convince you that you're abandoning them, but boundaries are not abandonment. Boundaries are love, love for yourself, and yes, even love for them. Because by refusing to let them use you as their emotional punching bag, you're inviting them to face themselves, and you're teaching yourself once again that you are worthy of peace. There is nothing noble about staying in a place that shrinks you. There is nothing virtuous about allowing yourself to be diminished just because someone else refuses to grow. You get to choose differently, and when you finally do, when you step away from the noise, even if just a little at first, you begin to see how much space there really is around you. You notice the quiet, you notice your breath again, you notice that life is still unfolding beautifully beyond the smallness of their chaos. Sometimes you have to leave the room so you can finally hear the music again. And this isn't about bitterness. It's not about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about making room for the right people, the ones who don't drain you just to feel full, the ones who don't tear you down just to feel tall. We forget that walking away is not just an ending. It's also an opening. It's a way of saying to yourself, I trust what's waiting for me on the other side more than I fear what I'm leaving behind. And that kind of trust in yourself, in the larger story, in the quiet wisdom of your own heart, that's what frees you. So the next time someone pulls you into their chaos and tries to convince you that you owe them your presence, remember this. Your presence is a gift. Not everyone has earned it. Not everyone knows how to treat it. Give it wisely, because the most powerful thing you can sometimes say is nothing at all. Just turn, walk toward the door, and step back into your own life. Your peace is waiting. One of the most beautiful lessons hidden inside these experiences, these moments of facing toxic people, of standing your ground, of walking away, is this. You are not just protecting yourself from something harmful. You are creating space for something extraordinary to grow, because every time you choose to rise above, every time you refuse to match their chaos, every time you anchor yourself in peace and walk away from their noise, you plant something. You plant the kind of example that others can feel, even if they can't quite name it. We don't often think about the ripple effect of how we respond to people, but it's there, it's always there. When you encounter someone who embodies grace under pressure, who doesn't get pulled into the drama, who maintains kindness even in the face of cruelty, you notice, don't you? Something about them makes you stop, makes you wonder, makes you believe that maybe you could respond like that too. That is the quiet power of leadership, and this is the part that so many of us miss. How you handle toxic people isn't just about you. It's about what you make possible for everyone around you. Because the world doesn't just need more people who know how to defend themselves from negativity. It needs more people who can transform the energy in a room by refusing to contribute to the noise. You can be that person, not because you're perfect, not because you've mastered every emotion, but because you've made the choice over and over to live in a way that reminds others what's possible. It's not about winning an argument, it's about modeling what it looks like to stay centered when everyone else has lost their footing. It's not about proving anyone wrong, it's about proving to yourself, to others, that there's a better way to exist. Every time you choose to be calm in the face of hostility, you remind someone else that calm is an option. Every time you set a boundary without anger, you show someone else that boundaries can be an act of love. Every time you walk away with dignity instead of spite, you leave behind a trail for someone else to follow. And what you may never fully know, what you may never see, is just how far that ripple travels. Somewhere, someone is watching you. They're watching how you hold yourself when it would be easier to crumble. They're watching how you speak when it would be easier to shout. They're watching how you walk away when it would be easier to stay and fight. And maybe, just maybe, because of what they see in you, they'll find the courage to do the same in their own life. We tend to think that change happens in grand gestures, that it takes power or position or applause to make an impact. But the truth is, some of the most profound change comes from quiet decisions made in ordinary moments. It comes from being the person in the room who refuses to match the chaos. It comes from being the one who doesn't play the game. It comes from being the one who remembers that every word, every choice, every breath is shaping not just their own story, but the stories of others, too. That is the quiet legacy of someone who knows how to beat toxic people at their own game, not by becoming them, but by becoming something entirely different. It's not easy, it takes practice, it takes humility. It takes more strength than anyone who's never tried it will ever understand, but that's how movements begin, not in shouts, but in whispers, not in battles won, but in examples set. And someday, someone who's been watching you, maybe silently, maybe from a distance, will decide to stand a little taller, speak a little more kindly, walk a little more bravely, because you showed them how. So when you find yourself in those moments, standing face to face with someone determined to pull you into their storm, remember, you're not just standing there for you. You're standing there for everyone who's watching, everyone who needs to know there's another way. Because you're not just protecting your peace, you're lighting the path, and that, more than anything, is how you change the game for everyone.